Hello, my name is Nicholas Mueller, and I'm so excited to show you guys all the statistical findings and visual representations. I know your time is busy, so we'll get straight into it. I first want to start off by showing that there were some missing values to take note of, those being IBU and ABV at about 1,005 missing values of IBU and about 62 ABV missing values. Now, if that is concerning information, we did include a predictive means model called a multivariate imputation via chain equation. And I know that sounds super confusing, but it's a predictive model that uses other values in our data set to possibly predict what the missing IBU might be. So it could take into account things like style, ABV, and things of that kind of caliber. We also wanted to continue. I want to show the number of breweries per state, where the top 5 is Colorado, California, Maine, Oregon, and Texas, with Colorado having 47 breweries. And then it kind of shows a possible left-sided skewness where South Dakota, North Dakota, and DC have only 1 brewery as per the data set. The computed median alcohol content ranges between 0.04 and just above 0.06, where the bulk of the median content is, with some outliers like Utah coming in at about 0.04 median alcohol content. Now states with the maximum ABV beer is Colorado coming in at about 0.128 ABV, and then Kentucky, New York, and Indiana trailing very closely behind. Computed international bitterness unit for each state. Now, this is the original raw data. As we can see here, South Dakota has no value of IBU. And with that, the top 5 is Maine, West Virginia, Georgia, Florida, and Delaware. However, if we would like to go the imputed route with our predictive model, we can see now South Dakota is number 3, New Mexico is a new number 2, and West Virginia is now the new number 1. Here's a little side by side to show that there is a difference between the two graphs, one with the missing values and the other with an imputed value. And then again, I'm going to show a different kind of top 5 versus the imputed versus the non-imputed. Now with states with the most bitter beer is going to be number 1 at the IPA called Bitter Bitch Imperial at coming in at 107 in Oregon, and then trailing behind is Virginia and so on with 106. And now just to kind of note that with the imputed data, no top 5 were affected. Summary statistics and distribution of ABV values. Now, this is the full range of ABV. As we can see from the bulk of the count or the bulk of the beers are between that 0.04 to 0.06 range, and then it starts to trail off as you get higher into the ABVs, and it trails off vice versa on the lower ABVs. But the bulk ranging above 400 plus between 0.04 and 0.05. Here's another kind of statistical summary, different visual representation of a box plot, whereas we can see very similar distribution with the median being between that 0.04 to 0.06, and then it trails off as it gets higher in ABV and lower in ABV. The relationship between both IBUs and ABVs, as we can see here, as the ABV gets higher, so does the IBU, and as the ABV gets smaller, so does the IBU. And then we also throw in a color coding bitterness scale from mild to extremely bitter, which we will continue to visually represent throughout this presentation. Here is with the imputed data, there isn't much difference in the correlation. Now we would like to show the relationship with a K nearest neighbor model. This will help predict whether a beer is an ale or IPA, depending on values like ABV and IBU. So as we can see here, as ABV and IBU get smaller, beers tend to be more ale. And as ABV gets larger and IBU gets larger, it tends to be IPA with some outliers of ale being higher in ABV and higher in IBU. The bulk of it is lower. Here's some test ranges in percents. So the testing and accuracy was ranged between 80 to 90% accuracy, sensitivity between 80 to 90% accuracy, and specificity with a 75 to 85%. And we also use a K of 30. Lastly, just for some extra fun, I thought this would be really cool to show you guys that the bulk of our beers lie between mild to moderately bitter, with about 60% of the beers, or extremely bitter only has about 6% beers. So we wanted to visually represent this so that there could be an untapped market, or maybe we could double down on an extremely bitter beer to help kind of boost those numbers. That could be an untapped market and have a lot of potential. That is the end of our presentation. Thank you guys so much for your time. We had so much fun working on this data set. And if you guys have any questions, I'd love to hear them.